one thing the Giants haven't done all year was put on their big boy pants. This is Tim, your Giants Straight Talk, powered by Online Big Blue LLC. Want to talk about how you can fire Brian Daboll, yet keep Joe Schoen. These guys weren't hired as a tandem, but in some ways they were. And you got to kind of go back and look, what the Giants have done in recent history with general managers. What you can't really even go back to see to be what they did previously, like way back, because you got to remember, I believe the Giants have only had, I think seven general managers since their inception. You had Ray Walsh at one point, Andy Robustelli, who had the shortest term after Ray. You had George Young from 79 to 1997. Then you fell into Ernie Accorsi from 1998 to 2006. Then we had the venerable Jerry Reese from 2007 to 17. That's when this got all murky. And I find it funny that I got all murky back over in 2005 when Mara and Tisch took over together, the co-ownership. Because at 2005, since 2005, we have had 3 general managers. From 1947 to 2006, we had 4. We were a modicum of consistency. We sat there and we were that model franchise. Even though we may not have been winning at times or the championships weren't rolling in, we understood the value of consistency. And the other problem was, though, we also understood the outside of Andy Robustelli and really just outside of Andy Robustelli, that you had to pick the right person for the job. And going back to Jerry Reese and after Jerry Reese, we really haven't done that. Gettelfraud was not the guy. Joe Schoen is definitely not the guy. But you have people that are crying out there saying, can you really get rid of Brian Daboll without firing Joe Schoen? If you think about it, it's not that far-fetched and it's not that crazy. People will point out that Dave Gettleman got to hire Pat Shurmur and then turn around and hire Joe Judge in his tenure. But the problem with that was the Joe Judge hire, people forget. We were basically shut out of a certain coach that we shall not name, we shall not speak, who we were in love with from the college ranks that went to Carolina. We were against hiring a seasoned veteran like the one that went over to Dallas or the one that went over to Washington at the time. We were against all of that. We wanted that young hot shot to come in. We hadn't learned our lesson from the doo-doo. No. We didn't learn our lesson from the doo-doo whatsoever. And then people will point to the fact that maybe the Giants were gun shy because after the Pat Shurmur incident. I don't even know why Pat Shurmur got a second chance. I really don't. Because like I said, he is the modern day Joe Bugle. Great offensive coordinator, great quarterbacks coach, terrible head coach. And that happens. That happens if you go back through the history of the league. We've talked about this with certain players. Certain players are what we refer to as quadruple A players, and they're too good to be in triple A, but they're not good enough to be in the majors. We got a lot of quadruple A players on this team right now that a segment of the fan base is holding on so tight that they will be something special, when more than likely they wouldn't even be anywhere between the 47th or the 53rd man on a good team. And that all falls back to the head coach, and that also, and his staff. But at the end of the day, you can only work with what you're given. Bill Parcells said it very well years ago that he can't just, I forgot. I'm actually reading something that's coming up about that kick from last night's game here, and I thought that was, I guess it was like 47 years. We haven't seen that. But he basically said, you know what, if I'm going to do the cooking, I want to do the shopping, Parcells said, which is very smart, which is very intelligent, because we've said this before. If you're a general manager, if you're a new general manager coming into a situation, and at that point in time, you want to bring in your head coach. You want to bring in your own staff. You want to bring in your own quarterback. Because we've said this before, and we've said it since the hiring of Gettleman and the hiring of Joe Schoen. It's not spelled Shane. It's spelled Schoen. But we have said this before. You want to bring in your own guys. You want to win or lose with your own guys. And Brian Daboll was Joe Schoen's guy. 100%. Not that it was never a package deal. But Joe Schoen knew when he was coming over here, and this was like one of the worst hidden kept secrets, that he was going to bring over Brian Daboll. When we hired Brian Daboll, I kept saying over and over again, did Josh Young make Brian Daboll, or did Brian Daboll make Josh Young? Josh Allen. We had an event last night at my kid's school, so we got home real late. So we got home real late. Did he make whom made who? Should be the question. And as we watch Josh Allen become one of the best quarterbacks in the entire league, even more than he was before, I really do think that you have to give him that mantle right now. He seemed to have gotten better without the tutelage of Brian Daboll. I know, crazy as that sounds, he's gotten better. And while he's gotten better, the New York Giant organization has gotten worse. But again, is it the fact that it's the ingredients that Brian Daboll's cooking with? Maybe they're expired. Maybe they've been overpaid. Maybe those ingredients are just not necessary, like trading for and signing a defensive end to a $120 million contract when you knew damn well you were not a defensive end away from turning around this organization. It was funny. We basically had to land on Shane Bowen because nobody, after what we did to Wink, nobody wanted this job. We could have waited an extra week and had what we refer to as a real defensive coordinator that got fired over in San Francisco. But no, we rush into things because we panic. We panicked with Joe Judge. Gettleman panicked with Joe Judge 100% because he had no one to take the job. When we were going through the replacement of Joe Schoen, there were other candidates. I was personally more involved with Ryan Poles because I thought Ryan Poles would be a better fit because he came from the Kansas City organization. He built himself up through the ranks. He seemed to me he did more in Kansas City than Joe Schoen really did in Buffalo. But I said the moment we hired Joe Schoen, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give him a couple seasons and see how he drafts. Because I keep forgetting. Because the people think I'm a genius, but there's really no way you can screw up 5 and 7. You already screwed up your foundational picks, Joe. So we're sitting there looking at a 2-win team, and we're trying to blame the head coach, or some people are. And some people are like, well, I'm okay with bringing back Joe Schoen, allowing him to pick the quarterback. Why? He picked his quarterback. We've talked about this ad nauseum. He picked his quarterback in Daniel Jones. The minute that $160 million deal dried, the ink on that deal dried, that was Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll's choice at quarterback. Last year, you had a quarterback-laden, wide receiving-laden draft. And what did you do? You take Malik Nabers at 6. There are guys right now in this league that went well after Nabers that have actually exceeded Malik Nabers' stats. With 45, I'm looking at you, Brian Thomas Jr., with 45 less targets. I kept saying this over and over again. You would think by accident, being targeted the second most times in the league, that you would bust a big play. You would pinball a big play. You would get behind someone. You would bounce around someone. You would do something. You would do it. You would do a Kadarius Toney in Dallas and make something. Something out of nothing. But no, we took a wide receiver 6 to fix a quarterback. So we went against all conventional wisdom to fix our quarterback because that's the smart thing to do as a general manager. We're also looking at a general manager who doesn't seem to listen to his staff. Who doesn't seem to listen to his own owner, who smirks at his owner when his owner said, listen, I'm not going to be able to sleep at night if this kid goes to Philly. Joe Schoen thinks he farts potpourri. And he really hasn't done anything since he's been here except drive this franchise deeper into despair. That 7-2 start was the worst thing that could ever happen to this team. Because like I said, we've said it before. You can go 7-2, 2-5-1, 6-11, and you're probably going to be a 2-win team this year. So you've gotten steadily worse than 7-2, 2-5-1, 6-11. Now you're a 2-win team, and the karma of it all, because there's always karma in this world. Michael Penix, who we should have drafted, gets his first start in the NFL against what team? Wait for it, of course, the New York Giants. Drum roll, please. So when I look at this from the grand scheme of things, you can't sit there and say, well, you know what, they're a package deal. You gotta get rid of both of them if you get rid of one, and that's not the case. But I will say this: you gotta get rid of both of them because both of them suck.
That's what she said.
Sorry, a little slow on the draw.
That's what she said.
You got to start over. You literally have to blow this up. And like I said before, yes, the Mara and the Tish have been given a lot of cachet. They have a lot of cachet with their names, the Mara and Tish. I shouldn't say them given. They have a lot of cachet with their names. It's Mara and Tish. Hey, that's football royalty in Mara. But the problem is this: they haven't really they've gotten their they got their 2 championships going back to 2007, 2011. But the problem is this: they haven't done anything since then. They have run this organization. They've been co-owners of this team since 2004. And you got to remember that the ownership of John Mara, he did not become president, CEO, co-owner, and president until 2005. Because people forget. I mean, well, he was always co-owner, but he really didn't step into the president label until about 2005. He's always been co-owner because he's always part of the Mara family. But at the end of the day, like I said, you're never going to fire ownership. I remember when we wanted to fire James Dolan. I remember that. And now James Dolan has turned into the perfect owner. He just keeps out of the way. I'm just going to keep out of the way. I'm gonna let I screwed up by giving the keys to the kingdom to Phil Jackson, but now I got Leon Rose, and I'm just gonna let him run it. And the way the Knicks are running right now, after last night's huge win against the Timberwolves in Minnesota, he's going the right way. But at the end of the day, you don't need to fire these guys because they are connected together. You need to fire these guys because they both suck. It's plain and simple. I had to laugh because I've been getting comments in the comment section after a certain video about some giant content creators. I've been getting some comments in the comment section that says, "I don't know who this guy is. He thinks his voice is for like WFAN, or he thinks he's a 90 WFAN, or he thinks he's Mike Francesa, or he's that's not an insult. I'm just telling people, work on your insults." Because you telling me that I sound like a 90s version of Mike Francesa, or Mike Francesa now, or someone working on WFAN, that's not an insult. You got to get a lot better at that, because my return fire was on a bunch of these comments were devastating. So get a little bit better at that's going to be during this Christmas vacation. Christmas vacation. I got to watch that. That's going to be my homework for certain people. Come up with better insults. Try it. Just work. Get a piece of paper and write it out. Because I mean, you comparing me to a radio host that's known as the Pope of New York and everything else, that's really not an insult to me. Oh, we're gonna have to wait and see what happens with this giant team. But like I said, fire them all. Start all over. Fireball. This is Tim's New York Giants Straight Talk, powered by Big Blue LLC, and I'm out of here.